Rallying in Kenya had got off to a late start in 2008 following the post-2007 election turbulence. This eventually calmed down following the signing of a peace deal mediated by former UN Secretary-General Kofi Annan. Whilst the politicians got on with forming the future of governance in the country, the rally calendar was rescheduled, and towards supporting the return to normality, the theme for the 2008 KCB Kenya National Rally Championship will be Rallying for Peace, Rallying for Kenya. The title sponsors KCB reaffirmed their commitment to the sport, recognizing the value of the affiliation, which was entering its 5th year.
We have big dreams for our business, and the KCB Kenya National Rally Championships is an ideal vehicle for us to promote our products and services in the market.
Apart from KCB, the championship secured the continued support of Triton Petroleum and AFSAT Communications through the Iway brand. Security Group will be providing a wide range of security and support services and Identisys, the official badges for each event. The delayed start to the season had given the crews plenty of time to prepare their cars, and after the 4-month layoff, the drivers were anxious to get behind the wheel again.
We've not rallied since November last year in Mombasa. I think we're very rusty, we're itching to go, we're raring to go, we really want to drive.
Triton Petroleum were once again fielding a 2-car team.
I hereby offer you this check of 4 million shillings to help you prepare for the rallies to come this year.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It would be a formidable team, with Baldev Chaga having been signed up to run alongside Lee Rose. Double past champion Azhar Anwar was back after a year-long layoff, and together with his brother Assad would be running under the Oil Libya colours.
Frankly, I really missed being out of last year's championship, and I've been itching to get back, so I'm really happy to be back and looking forward to driving today and driving for the whole of the 2008 season.
Petroleum companies would be dominant amongst the top runners, with reigning champion Carl Tundo running for Dalbit Petroleum alongside teammate Alistair Kavanagh.
You know, I'm first on the road, so not looking forward to that, but we'll be pushing. I think we know the route well enough to know where to slow down and where to go flat out.
Kenil Kobil will also be running one car, a Mitsubishi Evo 7 driven by Sami Aslam. The first of the 8 rallies that will comprise the 2008 season was the KCB Simba Savings Rally, in recognition of the many products and services offered by the title sponsor, KCB.
This is the KCB Simba Savings Rally. I just want to take a moment of your time and tell you a little more about this exciting product. The KCB Simba Savings account offers you no maintenance charges, no minimum opening balance, no minimum operating balance, and on top of that, premium interest rate. If you'd like to know more about KCB Simba Savings account, please contact us. The KCB Simba Savings account, a great way to save.
Scrutineering for the event was held at the Jacaranda Hotel on the outskirts of Nairobi. It's an attractive hotel for tourists, and especially its location within walking distance of 2 huge shopping malls.
Our location in Jacaranda is so convenient. We're the only hotel that offers you a walk over to a shopping mall that has everything, a Maasai market behind us, several pubs around us. So for the tourist market and the corporate market, Jacaranda Hotel is the ideal property.
As the cars underwent the pre-event check, thoughts were already on the rally itself, which would be run between Suswa and Gong the following day.
In short, I would say, Tim, a real crisp, short, fast, rough, exciting event. They have only 2 competitive sections going up to Kimuka, 2 coming back. Really, really good fast sections.
Amongst the lineup was Ian Duncan, who is best known for his antics behind the wheel of a Toyota. But the Hilux had been sold, and whilst a new Nissan pickup is under preparation, he was entering in a Ford Mustang that he debuted in last year's East African Safari Classic.
Yeah, and after last year's successful season, why are you in this car for this rally?
Okay, Toyota didn't really agree with you, but it was a success, so that was a bit demoralising. But also we still need to test this car and get it running a bit more reliable, because we were having some problems in the Classic.
Leading African driver Ben Mushemi was under doctor's orders not to take part and had loaned out his Subaru to motocross specialist Anthony Nielsen with a promise that if he does well, the car could be his for the year.
Yeah, I'm taking a medical sabbatical for, I think, 3 rallies. In the meantime, I think I'm still taking part in this rally because I have an equal representative taking part in my colors and sponsorship, everything. And he's a good driver.
Despite an overnight downpour, the route opener had reported back with the news passed on to the crews at driver's briefing.
The route has been open all the way. I've got route openers go through all the way from Suswa to Kimuka. It's open, no changes, rough as you saw it yesterday.
Whilst the crews synchronized their clocks against the official rally time, there were the pre-start formalities.
On behalf of the KCB group, I am pleased to welcome you all to the start of the KCB Kenya National Rally Championship 2008, which kicks off with the KCB Simba Savings Rally here in Nairobi.
It is indeed a good opportunity to unveil a season of sporting that will allow for national reconciliation and continued coexistence and harmony for all Kenyans.
First up to the start was the 2007 champion Carl Tundo, navigator Tim Jessup.
3, 2, 1, and there goes Carl Tundo and Tim Jessup. Makofi wananchi, makofi. Yes,
the first of the 4 stages was located 66 kilometers out of Nairobi, comprising 24 kilometers of flat-out motoring in the base of the Rift Valley. The true test of the rally would be the 42-kilometer stage up the side of the Rift to the service park at Kimuka. After a service break and time to allow all the cars to clear the route, the remaining 2 stages were a repeat of these sections but run in the opposite direction. It would be an extremely quick event, a test of both the cars and drivers as they pushed to the limit. With everyone fresh behind the wheel, there was extra motivation to prove their mettle, and it was Asad Anwar with Frank Kitao who were quickest over stage 1 by a margin of 15 seconds. The advantage would be lost in stage 2 when they suffered 2 punctures and damaged the crossmember, finishing the first half of the rally down in 8th place. Second quickest was Baldev Chaga and Farouk Yusuf in the Triton-sponsored Subaru N12. They had a clean run up the valley, and whilst positions changed around them, they reached service in 2nd place.
You're not taking any risks out there then?
Actually, no, more committed, not risks. If on my notes I wrote a max jump, I'm actually trying to take it as a max today. Getting to it and psychologically saying, okay, yes or no, and then gapping it. And we've been quite high in the air today. A few times we've been sideways a few times.
It took Lee Rose and Piers Dakin until the 2nd stage to settle into a rhythm, and although they weren't fastest over either section, they were quickest overall. By halfway, they were leading the rally with a slim margin of 4 seconds.
I'm kind of getting a rhythm, but I'm not pushing hard today though. I want to get to the end and not hammer the car. We're going gently over the jumps, gently over the rocks. So I think we found a happy medium.
Following a disappointing 2007 season, Alistair Kavanagh and Salim Haji were anxious for a finish on this rally. Whilst they claimed to be driving cautiously, they were fastest on stage 2 with an average of 108 kph. They were placed 3rd overall. 4th quickest over stage 1 were Ian Duncan and Amar Slach in the Ford Mustang. It is not the most nimble of cars, and for them to be competitive required them to drive on the limit, and on one bend, the end slid wide, forcing them into the bank. They got going, but the steering arm had been bent, and it was now just a matter of getting to service to make repairs. The time lost plummeted them down to 25th.
No, I mean we just bent. We broke the tie rod and bent the arm. So yeah, so it's like, so at least it still works. So that's I mean what we did is quite good. So it's like
Okay, well we saw you fixing it in service. Is it going to cope going back?
We'll see.
Having not rallied last season, Azhar Anwar with Imran Khan were amazed at the increased pace of the frontrunners. They weren't by any means off the pace, but did lose time on each stage, and by service were lying 4th.
I'm waiting to see the times, but it was good fun.
But you were committed?
Yeah. Trying to drive quickly. There was no hanging back. I mean, these youngsters are, they're daredevils, man. They really fly.
Carl Tundo and Tim Jessup may have had the kudos of being number one, but being first on the road was not an advantage. They were forced to stop on numerous occasions to clear the road of cattle, losing over a minute to those behind, ending the first two stages in 5th place.
Yeah, on some of the sections, you know, where you're 5th, 6th gear flat out, and you have to slow down back into 1st because of cattle, you're losing loads of time.
How far off the pace are you?
About a minute.
That's a big...
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah.
Also having trouble with cattle was Sami Aslam with Kashif Sheikh. They were in 6th, trailing the other fuel-sponsored cars by nearly 3 minutes. Sean Miller and Alistair Keith proved their ability when they finished 3rd in Nyanyuki last year on their first outing in Kenya. They haven't rallied since then, but plan to do the whole season this year, and for now, they were in 7th.
I got a new navigator who's never navigated before, so we're just being a little bit careful. If we could come home in the same place we left, I'd be happy.
God, that's not a big goal. Not for a driver of your caliber.
Anthony Nielsen with George Joroge were under pressure to do well on this rally to secure the car for the season. But this aside, Anthony has a natural flair for the sport, and 9th overall on his first event in a competitive car was only scratching the surface.
We've had a good run now. I mean, George and I are getting on quite well in the car, so that's at least a positive thing. Okay, we went off one corner and did a slight mistake, so I think we lost about a minute trying to get the car out. Just George had to come out and push, so poor him, but otherwise it was good.
Rounding off the top 10 was Sushil Shah and Ashad Khan in one of the 4 Subaru N10s in the event. But all was not well. The bolt holding the gear stick linkage broke, making the selection of gears very hit and miss.
Been going fine so far. Just the last 10 kilometers, same problem as Eldoret, broken a gear lever link. So I don't know. It's just one of those bad lucks.
Is that a weak point on your car?
No, I hit a rock really hard. Yeah, I was quite fast.
The only husband and wife team in the event were Don and Sonny Smith. Whilst they are old hands at rallying in Kenya, they are concentrating on the 2008 African Rally Championship and had only entered to shake down their new Subaru N12 ahead of the next ARC round in Uganda. For now, they were in 11th.
Once we get in there, we don't argue. It's just a question she tells me what to do all the time, rather than normal, which she tells me what to do most of the time. This car is phenomenal. So for the first time, I'm sat in someone's dust. So that tells you something, yeah? It's either me, which I don't think it is, or it's the car.
With half the rally complete, accounting for 66 competitive kilometers, the Triton team of Lee Rose and Baldev Chaga were placed first and second, with only 4 seconds separating them. They would be hard to beat with the time gaps behind so huge. Linked to the championship, the sponsors, led by KCB, extend appreciation to the communities in the areas through which each rally passes, through donations and other assistance. This year, these CSR functions will concentrate on rebuilding the lives of Kenyans who have been disrupted by the post-election violence which left thousands displaced. For the first round in the championship series, a one-day medical camp was undertaken in Naivasha town, where over 1,000 patients were given free medical services by a team of doctors, including the distribution of free drugs.
With what happened in our country in 2008, we decided that we wanted to take a bold step and go to the areas of particular need. And we know that Naivasha went through some particularly trying times. So what we're here to do is to show the people of Naivasha that we are with them. We're with them in spirit. We're trying to meet them at their point of need.
Following the turbulence, tourism has been drastically affected, and it is hoped that through these TV programs, a message can be sent worldwide that Kenya is not only safe to visit, but remains the destination of choice for those who seek adventure and wildlife.
Yeah, it's a very big...
Kenya is a fascinating country, and whilst there is little time during each rally to enjoy the surroundings, they are always within sight of tourist landmarks. The rally route on Round 1 were on roads normally used by tour operators ferrying visitors to the famous Masai Mara Game Park, which is well known as one of the best wildlife parks in the world. On the journey, visitors will pass the extinct volcanoes of Mount Suswa and Mount Longonot with their fascinating geography and deep caves. Just beyond Mount Longonot is Lake Naivasha, one of the many lakes in the Great Rift Valley, a haven for bird watchers and the colorful colobus monkeys. As we return to the KCB Simba Savings Rally, most of the cars had, by now, reached service and were being held in Park for May before the rerun of the stages back into the valley. At the back of the field, 7 cars were taking part in the separate two-wheel drive championship, whose itinerary only included the first 2 stages. The favorite for victory was the reigning two-wheel drive champion, who had only entered to keep his hand in whilst waiting for a new car.
The plan is we want to drive this car until Safari, and maybe after that we're trying to get into a new car and then do the national.
As expected, he was quickest on stage 1, opening up a lead of 50 seconds, although in the process they had landed hard, popping out the rear windscreen. The category was dominated by Toyota Levines, and it was championship hopefuls Darren Miranda and Dapinder Kalsi who briefly took over second place. As a gesture of goodwill, they will be rallying for underprivileged kids throughout 2008.
So we said anyway, if we're going to do it, let's do it for a good reason. So through rallying, we're trying to help some destitute kids who are trying to get a better life, obviously, and education and all that.
Newcomers Charles Hinga and Evans Mwenda were experiencing rallying for the first time. They quickly realized that consistency was the best strategy for a good result. They were in 3rd for now. The only other make of car in the category were 3 Golf GTIs, with Gurmit and Inderjit Teti's VW performing better than ever, having been refettled during the break. They were lying in 4th. Following a disappointing season last year, Leonardo Varesi and Kigondo Karedi have set their goal on taking the championship outright this year. But right from the start on their opening gambit, the intercom failed and they would only finish 5th.
The championship's always been your goal.
Yeah, it's been my goal, but if we get a bit of consistency out of this car, I think we can be competitive.
Finishing 6th were Limi Karienye and Camille Correr, who easily lost a place when they broke a rim, forcing them to stop for 5 minutes. Apart from that, they just needed more power, especially up the gravel inclines.
No, I wasn't trying too hard. I was trying to have some fun over the jumps. With last year's experience, I was not pushing too hard last year. So this year I'm trying to attack as much as possible.
Running at the back were Ishpal Bilku and Paranjit Sembi in another Levine. This was their first outing in the car, and the time was spent in getting used to it and to developing their rallying skills. Up at the front, Jasmeet Chana had caught up with the last car running in the main event, who was unaware he was behind due to the thick dust. Eventually, they gave the car a nudge and was soon on their way, but there were no ill feelings.
Very sorry for hitting you from the
No
back.
problem, no problem.
Just stuck in your dust for about 4 kilometers.
No problem. I couldn't see at the back, then I let him pass.
You couldn't see anything?
No, it was too much dusty, too dusty. You can't see the car at all. What's coming behind you?
With Darren Miranda forced back, Charles Hinga and Evans Mwenda slipped into second place, a brilliant result for their first event. Despite blowing their clutch, Gurmeet and Indrajit Teti also moved up a place to finish third.
We had really good moments, but I think the last 10 Ks is when we started getting the problem, so we had to really slow down. We've upgraded the car a bit now, so we're looking at a few podium finishes, definitely.
At the finish back in Nairobi, the results confirmed Jasmeet Chana and Sudhir Tati to have won by over 2 minutes, a great start to the season.
We've been driving at around 70%. We have not driven 100%. Yeah.
Well, what's happened to your back windscreen?
We took a jump and knowing the Golf because of the nosedive, I think it just popped out.
Jasmeet Chana had only averaged 80 kph, but it was enough to take command. All 7 cars finished the event, although Darren Miranda was disappointed to be last. The service park at Kimuka was located at the base of the Ngong Hills, with the 5 peaks providing a stunning backdrop, a sample of the typical features found all around beautiful Kenya. The 40 cars taking part soon filled up the area, which became a hive of activity, with the service crews only allowed 20 minutes in which to refettle their cars.
Come and tell me which ones I can.
Through the mobile highway communications satellite link, results were beamed back to rally headquarters in Nairobi.
What we enable the rally team to do is to be able to broadcast and transmit the video clips to the world spontaneous anytime they want to do it. That's what highway broadband is about, enabling connectivity.
Immediately adjacent to the park was the end of CS2, where thousands of spectators gathered to watch the action. Although only 4 seconds separated Lee Rose from Baldev Chaga, the competition remained friendly.
We've realized at the moment that there's a sneeze in between us, essentially. So it's he who sneezes comes second. That's the rule.
Lee's had it. Going down the hills, he's totally had it.
I've been feeding him pepper, though.
The cars were not reseeded and would remain in the same running order in which they arrived, which meant Carl Tundo and Tim Jessup were once again first on the road for the rerun into the valley. They set off to recover the earlier time lost and were quickest over stage 3, regaining 30 seconds, and climbed 2 places on the leaderboard to third. The need to push for the win forced Baldev Chaga to drive on the limit, but in doing so, the drive became untidy. Instead of gaining, they lost a further 18 seconds to Rose, but held on to second. Lee Rose and Piers Dakin were unfazed by the pressure, and although they upped their pace, they kept the car out of trouble. They were second quickest over stage 3, and with Chaga falling back, increased their lead to 22 seconds. Alistair Cavan and Salim Haji still remained cautious in favour of a finish. They were third quickest through the section, but with Tundo so quick on the stage, they dropped a place to 4th. Azhar Anwar and Imran Khan also gave way to Tundo, and they dropped from 4th to 5th, despite beating their earlier time over the stage by 24 seconds. Ian Duncan and Amar Slach had the uphill task to recover from 25th and set off to climb the leaderboard. They were 5th quickest through the stage, gaining 5 places, and with 1 stage remaining, were in 20th. After the 42-kilometer stage, everyone except the top 2 had changed places, including Asad Anwar, who had climbed from 8th to 6th. With only 1 24-kilometer section remaining, Lee Rose was almost uncatchable. There were still 25 cars running in the event, with everything going just right for Anthony Nielsen, who had moved up 2 places to 7th. Yogesh Patel and Keith Henry were back in their Subaru N10 after a long layoff, and much of the rally was spent in regaining their old flair. 11th overall was a good opener to the season.
Today I think I've really committed myself at last year. The car has settled down very well, and the shocks are good, and we're taking the jumps very well.
The only Toyota in the event in the hands of Jaswinder and Ravi Chana would finish 12th. Having rolled on the valley section the last time it was used, they were understandably being cautious.
To be honest, this time when we came around the corner, I was a bit cautious, just, leave my... I actually sort of had a small prayer in my mind that, oh, this is where I crashed. Help anybody else who doesn't crash here.
So you've got it marked in your notes, have you?
Yeah, it's been marked in our notes from ever since we rolled there.
Alfir and Faisal Khan in a red Subaru Impreza were also having a consistent run. Having started 14th on the road, they would go on to finish 13th. Ian Freestone will be remembered for driving a Ford Escort in the East African Safari Classic, which he rolled into oblivion. He's based in England and had flown out especially for the rally, but this time was navigating for Raju Semi. 14th overall made the trip well worthwhile.
Kenya is one of the last places in the world where you can do proper rallying, where you've got stages that are of a decent length. In England, rallying's great, but the stages are very short, and this is a real experience to be able to get on longer stages.
A crew with a promising future were Quinton Mitchell and Sudhir Wasson. When they were going, they were extremely quick, but a broken windscreen which was changed in service had incurred a huge time loss. This was their first event in the Evo 7, and 15th overall did not reflect their potential.
It's a big learning curve for us because I've never driven Group N before. I mean, I've only done the East African Classic, which was last year, and we only managed a day of that. So to be thrown into this beast is quite an experience.
There were some unusual cars in the event, including Romy Bamra and Havinder Jatli's Datsun 240Z, which proved to be quicker than many of the Group N's. They were competing for the newly formed Classic Car Cup, which also included Duncan's Mustang. There was also a Ford Escort RS, driven by Aslam and Fahaz Khan. They were taking advantage to get in some experience and iron out any problems on the car ahead of the next Classic. Martin Gitata with Elijah Muredi have nearly exhausted the potential of their Daihatsu Special, but were keeping their hand in whilst they wait for a new car.
What are you planning on getting?
I'm looking for an Impreza. Within the course of the year, I'll find one. And then it will be a lot of fun.
So rallying's in your blood now?
It's always been since I was a kid,
The rally was nearly over, and with the finish in sight, the crews were putting in a last-ditch effort to improve on positions. Sushil Shah and Ashad Khan had fixed the gear linkage and were back on the pace, but could not make a dent on those ahead and would finish 10th. Sami Aslam and Kashif Sheikh had been held back with a puncture, and the time lost slipped them down the leaderboard from 6th to 9th. Don and Sonny Smith were still not used to the speed of the new car, which resulted in spending most of their rally in dust, but 8th overall in their first outing in the N12 was extremely satisfying. The rally could not have gone better for Anthony Nielsen and George Joroge, and 7th overall was proof enough that they deserved to keep the car. Sean Miller and Alistair Keefe flew through the last stage, but the pace of the frontrunners was just out of reach, and they would finish 6th. The rally would be a huge disappointment for Asad Anwar and Frank Gitao. By winning the first stage of the day, they had proved that they had the speed, and now just need to iron out the mechanics on the car. They would eventually be forced to retire when the steering broke. Ian Duncan and Amar Slush eventually climbed 8 places on the leaderboard to finish 17th, which was only a reflection of the time they'd lost earlier in the day. In 5th place were Azhar Anwar and Imran Khan, who had treated the rally as a refresher course. It's only a matter of time before they regain their old pace and will undoubtedly be amongst the top 3 in future. Alistair Kavanagh's hopes of improving fell by the wayside when the car picked up a misfire. After such a disappointing season last year, finishing the rally in 4th was a much-needed morale boost.
After so long out of the game, it was I was wondering if I was off the pace or not. But so no, it was encouraging to get fastest time second stage, and then we were hoping to sort of improve on that, but it wasn't going to be with a misfire.
The race amongst the top 3 had been electric, but for Carl Tundo and Tim Jessup, being first on the road had been their downfall. They only gained 10 seconds on the closing stage to finish 3rd overall.
We pushed on the first section down the hill and actually made up some time, about 30 seconds. And then that short 24K section where I really pushed, I lost the time back. So, yeah, I'm not sure.
The draw for being first is on rotation amongst the top 6, and so Baldev Chaga will be the road sweeper in the next event. They were quickest over the last stage, but it was not enough to close the gap on Rose, and after the hard-fought battle, they would finish 2nd.
We beat him 2 stages today, he beat us in 2 stages. But the stage that we beat him, unfortunately, was a shorter stage. So had that been maybe 10 k's longer, we would have probably got the better of him today. Yeah. So it was a very balanced rally. There was 1 stage for Subaru, 1 stage for Mitsubishi.
Lee Rose and Piers Dakin had a last-minute scare when the car stalled after a hard landing. There is no doubt that Lee is arguably the fastest driver amongst Kenya's elite, and hopes that the new Evo 9 on order will only consolidate this.
It's fantastic. Yeah, I can't describe it. It's such a great feeling when it all comes together, and it's fantastic for Triton. 1, 2, they've been fantastic to me. I mean, without Triton, I wouldn't be here.
Only 8 seconds eventually separated Rose from Chaga, providing a taste of what can be expected throughout the season with any of the top 10 potential winners. 24 cars finished the event, Ian Duncan down in 17th. The final results were also reflected in the current standings in the championship, with Lee Rose out in front by 20 points. The Group N championship positions are identical, and with all the frontrunners now in Group N's, it will be interesting to see how this develops with 7 rounds still to go. In the newly created Classic Car Cup, Ian Duncan in the Ford Mustang leads by 4 points from Romy Bamra's Datsun 240Z. In the two-wheel drive championship, the current champion Jasmeet Chana intends to upgrade, so it's the names behind to watch out for.